If thinking defines who you are, how can you notice yourself thinking? This question appears simple, yet it exposes a fundamental paradox at the center of human consciousness. In everyday life, identity is often equated with thought. You may assume that your beliefs, opinions, and internal dialogue constitute your sense of self. From this perspective, consciousness itself seems identical with mental activity, yet direct experience quietly contradicts this assumption. You can notice thoughts arising and disappearing. You can observe emotional reactions forming, intensifying, and dissolving. You can even become aware of shifts in your internal commentary. From one moment to the next, the very fact that these processes can be observed suggests a distance between the observer and what is observed. Observation logically implies that the observer cannot be identical with the object of observation. According to Ibn Arabi, thinking is not the deepest layer of consciousness. There is a stillness that precedes thought, a stable condition that allows thinking to appear, change, and be known. Modern psychological life is marked by constant mental activity. Many people experience chronic internal narration, persistent overthinking, and repetitive rumination. Anxiety loops often form when thoughts are treated not as events, but as facts about reality or identity. In this condition, beliefs, opinions, and self-talk become fused with the sense of self. From a cognitive science perspective, this is understandable. The mind continuously generates predictive narratives in order to interpret experience and anticipate outcomes. These narratives are useful, but they are often mistaken for objective truth. Thoughts are treated as reliable descriptions rather than transient mental constructions. Neuroscience offers further insight. The system responsible for self-referential processing dominates resting consciousness. Excessive activation of this system is strongly associated with rumination and depressive thinking. Psychologically, this leads to cognitive fusion, the inability to distinguish the self from its thoughts. Emotional regulation weakens because emotional reactions are immediately interpreted as personal or existential threats. The central tension is clear. Humans search for clarity inside thought, yet thought itself is unstable, repetitive, and reactive. The deeper question is simple. What allows thought to be noticed at all? The analysis begins with a distinction between mental content and awareness itself. Thoughts, images, and concepts are mental content. Awareness is the condition in which mental content appears. Thought, in this framework, is an object of consciousness. Awareness is not an object within thought. If a thought can be observed, it cannot logically be the observer. This insight does not require mystical belief. It follows from basic principles of observation and distinction. Thoughts have a clear temporal structure. They arise, they persist briefly, they disappear, change in response to mood, physical state, context, and memory. Anything that changes in this way cannot be the stable subject of experience. Thoughts are forms presented to awareness. They are not agents. They do not possess independent identity. The brain produces mental content, but content is not identity. The same person thinks differently when calm than when stressed, differently when rested than when fatigued. Yet identity does not reset with each shift in thinking. The continuity of experience persists despite fluctuations in mental content. You do not think thoughts into existence as an act of will. Thoughts appear within awareness, often spontaneously, shaped by prior conditioning and context. Awareness itself remains stable while thinking changes. A common misunderstanding equates stillness with mental silence. From this view, the absence of thought is treated as the goal of awareness. This assumption is incorrect. Stillness is not a state produced by stopping thought. It is the background condition in which thought occurs. Movement requires a stable reference dot. Without stillness, motion could not be detected in the same way. Thought requires stillness to be noticed. Awareness persists during active cognition. Background consciousness is not disrupted by thinking. Better awareness allows thoughts to be observed without suppression. Attempts to forcibly control or eliminate thought often increase mental noise rather than reduce it. Control strengthens identification, even during stress. You can notice thoughts racing. The noticing itself does not race. It remains stable. Stillness is not something you enter after thought stops. It is what you recognize as already present beneath cognitive activity. Another confusion arises when people imagine a separate observer self watching thoughts. This creates an infinite redress. If there is an observer of thoughts who observes the observer, awareness is not another object within experience. It is the condition of appearance itself. The witness does not observe from outside. It is not localized. It is not personal. It is not separate. There is no central entity watching mental events. Observation does not require duplication. Vision does not require a second pair of eyes. Behind the eyes, awareness does not require a second self. Behind the self, the stillness that sees thinking is not an identity you possess. It is not something you have. It is the condition through which identity appears. The personal self is not a fixed substance. It is a pattern, a constellation of meanings, memories, beliefs, and expectations. It updates continuously as experience accumulates and interpretations shift. No fixed center of self can be found. Values, roles, and beliefs shift across life stages. What felt central at one point may later seem peripheral. Despite these changes, awareness remains uninterrupted. The self is seen. What sees is not the self. Confusing the two generates instability and unnecessary conflict. If stillness is always present, why does it feel invisible? Because stillness lacks contrast. It does not announce itself. Human attention is biased toward movement, novelty, and change. What is stable fades into the background. What is always present is easy overlooked. What changes appears significant. Stillness is not emptiness. It is not dissociation. It is not numbness. It is not the absence of experience. It is the context in which experience occurs. Stillness is not experienced as an object. It is recognized as context in practical terms. This understanding changes the relationship to thought. Thoughts are observed without immediate control. They are labeled as events, not truths. Anxiety is noticed as mental activity, not identity. Rumination loses momentum when thoughts are seen as transient. Emotional regulation improves. Cognitive flexibility increases. Internal conflict decreases. This does not happen through suppression. It happens through clarification. Thinking is dynamic. Awareness is stable. The deepest layer of consciousness does not think, it sees thinking. Occur transformation does not involve silencing the mind, it involves no longer mistaking thought for the self. When the stillness that sees thinking is recognized, thoughts lose authority, identity loosens, clarity no longer depends on control. This is not an escape from cognition. It is a correction in how cognition is understood.